Hey everybody, Perrin Lovett here for the Prepper Post News on Friday, February 26, 2021. I think Monday, I don't think it's a leap year, Monday will be March. Hello to everybody. Let's get right into the subject matter today. This one is either going to be great or it might be a little rough. It is what it is. Um, I'll just start off with a little bit of, first I'll say that I, like so many people, were misled, and I misled myself for so long into thinking that all of the big important issues were economic, political, or legal. They're not. Some of them used to be, sometimes they still are, but it's cultural. It is cultural, friends. That's what matters, and that's why we've been losing for so long. And speaking of so long, this is not part of the script, but I remember I read a long time ago that geologists and archaeologists thought they had found the approximate location of where Sodom and Gomorrah used to be. There was no trace of human civilization of any kind from that estimated time period. They found, here and there more recent, evidence that somebody had been there in between, but something had happened. They're not sure what, but they looked at the scoring on the rocks. They did some radiological measurements, and they think it was either some sort of fusion explosion or maybe even antimatter. Something hit Sodom and Gomorrah with unimaginable power, and we have a field guide to how that might have happened. So that ties in with both my title and with the subject matter. I'll just say that if one day two angels come knocking on your door and tell you it's time to go, it's probably time to go. We've been talking a lot about the homeschooling, and yesterday I warned I ran out of time, and I don't think I have time now, but I'm sure you read the article. They are the Prometheans, the Satanists, are always on the prowl. Like their master, like a lion looking to devour souls. They want the kids. They want the homeschooling kids. They want all of your kids. And I found this interesting story at the American Mind, which is a halfway decent civic nationalist conservative site. It's called "The Doctor is Insane." It's by Peachy Keenan, and I bet that's probably a pseudonym, although you never know. And she's a woman who has a lot of children and promotes people having a lot of children, and she loves her children. So she takes them to the pediatrician, and she took her teenage son, and something interesting happened. It was a routine exam, but the doctor asked her to step out so she could ask some private questions, and it was very tense. And I'll just read you about she didn't want to leave, but she felt threatened. But she trusted her son, who she had done a great job of raising. "Reader, I left. I lingered outside the door for a minute until a nurse ushered me into an empty storage room to wait, where I couldn't eavesdrop. A few minutes later, the doctor slinked out and waved goodbye without a word. On the way to the car, the boy told me what happened. She asked me about drugs and alcohol, and she told me when I have sex to use a condom. Always pushing the same stuff. Always pushing it. And finally, the kicker, then she asked me if I was comfortable with my gender." And Peachy says, "Beware the pediatrician. And she goes on to say this is probably some form of grooming. It's probably systematic. She probably needs a new doctor. All of you need to be on the watch out because they're everywhere. They've infiltrated everything, and it's... until we make it better, it's not going to get any better. But hang on, that's not even really the feature. This all runs together. I had to fit this one in where I could. This is about the colleges. I'm not even going to quote from it, but it's Dr. DiLorenzo, the economist, wrote yet another great article at Lou Rockwell's site about the past tense decline or collapse of American colleges and universities. It's the fix is in. That they went there first, when they were starting to work on everything else. Just read that. Here's another one I had to shoehorn this one in too, but with the way this thing, and I'm about to get to the devil's acronym, with the way this thing is progressing, when I sometimes maybe casually, flippantly say that cannibalism is next, that's the final, as I see it, letter in the acronym, that's not rhetoric. I'm not making that up. We have some cat, convicted felon, should be in prison, released 16 years early, killed 3 people, and read this, allegedly. I even have his mugshot because the rest of the press, like the Oklahoman, was running it. But allegedly, innocent until you know the thing. A triple murder suspect has confessed, saying he killed a neighbor first and cut out her heart to eat at home. He cooked the heart with potatoes to feed his family to release the demons. I'm literally being serious, and he's probably a not exactly the test case that they are looking to use, but it's coming. But here we go. Let's go back to the what would that make it? LGBTQ VPP, the pediatrician, and C is in cannibal. But let's go to, I guess this is to the Q. And this is a San Francisco Gate story that grabbed my attention. I'm just going to have to read you large sections of this. 1 in 6 Gen Z adults, and those are the Zers that are over 18, I guess 18 to 22 or something. 1 in 6 of them are LGBT and Q, and the number could continue to grow. And this is a story from their side about how and why. And we meet just a sad case who identifies as something, and their friends are queer in some way, all of them. This is just, I know I probably can't make it through most of this. They attended a diverse public middle school that taught lessons about sexual orientation and gender identity in health class. Don't have your kids in public school and watch the private schools. But by then they had already made up their mind. It just goes into the stats about how this is increasing. Where was the quote that really got it? I tell you what. Here we go. This is some expert talking about how the rigid lines around gender and sexuality are just opening up for everybody. They're proud of what they've done. Young people are just doing it. They're leading this revolution, and they're forcing scientists to take a closer look until real scientists actually want to take a look, and then that's racist. You can't do that. They go on to talk about how they've happily destroyed marriage, heterosexuality. That's yesterday. They've got somebody in here talking about how their conservative Hispanic parents just don't get it. They're old, they don't, the same people that tell us that, all these foreigners coming in, natural conservatives, religious Catholics, blah, 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 until they actually find 2 old folks that really are, and then they don't like them because they're bigots. Post-marriage equality. We're liberated now. Legitimacy of sexual diversity has kind of arrived. And people recognize that, just like the men who approach Lot's door. I can't read any more of that. It just goes on to say that it's not only natural, it's probably something your kids are already doing. Maybe you should look into it. Remember, they want you to tolerate it, then accept it, ratify it, and then participate in it. And I ask maybe if that's if that's why the birth rates are tanking. Because if 1 in 6 this generation, what about the next generation? Is it going to be half of them? I don't think so. The pendulum will swing back. But it's really depressing. Really, really, really depressing. I've got a Gallup poll that says that the number of alternative people keeps increasing percentage wise. Why? They don't know how to explain this. If you suggest that it's a lifestyle choice, they get angry and say no, it's hardwired biology. I'm born this way. If you get into genetic science and say, well, yeah, there is this gene, oh, no, that's racist. It's probably a little bit of both. I imagine that the DSM-3 or whatever number listed this as a disorder was right. It's probably related to some other common disorders that are hardwired. I feel so bad for the young people. You can see this out in public now. They've just been brainwashed, and it's everywhere. Their whole world is a rainbow that's upside down and burning. And because of that is peer pressure. That pushes more of them. Everybody else is doing it. Everybody on the television and Disney and all this nonsense, they're doing it. I guess I will too. It's the cool thing, the end thing. Break away before the before the photonic energy beam comes down from heaven. And the title of today's show is Slouching Towards Ameriqueer. I made that up. It's kind of lame. Comes from the 1996 book Slouching Towards Gomorrah by the Honorable Robert Bork. There were some problems with his presentation, but he was right. He's, even back then, he recognized that we were in a steep period of decline. He centered in, of course, like a judge would, on the Constitution, the government, the state. It's the culture. I'll never forget. My experience is so far afield. I met Judge Bork at a party one afternoon at Ted Olson's house, of all places. Great guy, not with us anymore. But check that book out, Slouching Towards Gomorrah, although it's going to seem very dated, just 25 years after it was released. Okay, let's move this along. I was going to tell you a story today. I don't feel like it. And also the homeschooling people, thanks so much for the comments we've had going, the discussion. Just be careful, and I know you are. Let's get back to the geopolitics we can't escape. Cue the breakup song, broken up for good just an hour before. 1/3 of Americans, according to the Blaze, 1/3 of Americans, and like most Southern Republicans among them, want to end the United States and break it up into separate sovereign countries based on like thinking, like-mindedness. That's going to happen. Next year, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, it's going to happen. It has to happen. All heterogeneous empires break up eventually. The way they sketch it out very simplistically into 5 new nations based on geography alone, and again, geography will play a huge role in this. The like-mindedness, you got to get by the identity and the culture parts first, then you can work on the like-mindedness. 5 states, I don't know. We're going to find out probably in your lifetimes or your children's lifetimes. If those other trends continue, you may not have grandkids or great-grandkids, at which point none of this would matter. Sad, 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 sad. Sad that we let it come to this. We let it come to this point. We can pull it back. God always preserves a remnant. Here's another example. People hate identity politics, and with good reason, but it's real. And it's like if you're in a basketball game, your hockey stick becomes useless. So play by the rules you're given. We have a very sad sack story reported by the Washington Examiner, one of the 2 honest Washington papers that are not the Washington Post, about how diversity really works in the public school system of New York City. There was I forgot it, but she's an Afro-Latino teacher, or she was, and she was, what they would call identity-wise a brown, a Hispanic, and she was commanded by her superiors to perform some sort of, I'm not kidding, Wakanda Black Power, Black Panther, like my mask, uh, thing. And she didn't want to. She said, "This is ridiculous. I'm not going to do it." They fired her. Now she's suing them, and I bet she's going to win. She's going to become some level of a millionaire out of this. But the insanity continues. They will pit everybody against everybody. Is what it is. And it's that way all over the world, no matter who you are. Ideologically, you either have no allies or you'll lose them when you might need them. We had this Navalny character, the Juan Guaido of Russia. The dark state sets up coups and pseudo coups everywhere all the time. Joe Biden is our president. That one worked. Juan Guaido down in Venezuela was just completely ignored and written off. This guy in Russia is, under arrest now. He's not going anywhere against Putin and the nationalists of Russia, but he's a prisoner. And Amnesty International was saying that he had human rights. He was a prisoner of conscience. But they've withdrawn all that now. Now he's just a prisoner. Now he's just a jerk on his own, because he engaged in some wrong think, like our rapper friend, Young Pharaoh. Certain things you just can't say. In the group you're saying it about, that doesn't matter. It's just because you don't get to decide who the future chosen victim group is that gets you canceled. Even when you're already in jail, they'll still try to cancel you. Check that one out. And here, I always try to give you guys solutions. Military Strategy magazine has a thesis written up by a Czech name of Samuel Zelenkic, working on his PhD, and he talks about antifragility. That these words get tossed around a lot, but fragile obviously is something that's easily broken. Something that's durable is not easily broken, but something that's anti-fragile not only doesn't break, but it adapts and gets stronger. And in a military sense, especially in 4th or 5th generation warfare, it's important to understand how that works and how it looks in the field. And he's got some great historical examples, such as what happened with the Spartans, the end of the great kingdom of Sparta. You ask 9 out of 10 Americans about Sparta, and I don't know. The other 10 will say the 300. Maybe one of them will say Thermopylae or thermometer me. They don't know about the campaign against Thebes and how the Spartans did not adapt. They were strong as all get out, but the Thebians just kept coming and changing and adapting, and eventually overcame and defeated them. So last word. This is not going to be the last word. I just thought of a great last word. But the last word, back to the culture, Tolkien. We knew it would happen someday. Tolkien is extraordinarily popular for very good reasons. I'm sure popular with many of you. Always popular with me. Not very popular with certain people on the other side for obvious or not so obvious reasons. A devout Christian writing what he swore was not Christian allegory, but sorry, Professor, it really was. Western to the core, true good versus true evil. They don't like it. And as long as he was around, they couldn't mess with it. He was a crazy man. He was known to, carry a battle axe around. He lived the ideal. His son wouldn't let anything happen to his legacy. Well, he started slipping the older he got, but now Christopher's gone. So now the Tolkien Society is giving in. They're putting out a call for papers about Tolkien and diversity. And I've got a link here to 2 stories. One about the society, and then 2 is about the new media, the television, the streaming, Amazon, whatever, Netflix presentation of the Legendarium. They're openly saying that they are going to completely and totally destroy it on film. So don't watch. Don't subscribe to these satanic services. Start reading. Stop watching. And maybe buy a really high quality hardcover edition of The Lord of the Rings now before they commence to editing it. Because Lord only knows what you'll end up with Sauron being the good guy. But a word, this is a word of a parting, final word of happy thoughts for us and a warning to our enemies. And these are not my words. You'll recognize them. I'll try to quote this to you. Just the first part. Remember, when they keep pushing us, it's their fault. So don't feel bad eventually. I'll change the words just a little bit to make it about us, because it was not part of our, that's not right. It was not part of our blood. It came to us very late, with long arrears to make good, when the Saxon began to hate. A beautiful poem by Rudyard Kipling, the Wrath of the Saxon. Check that out. And yeah, so we'll be back on. This wasn't too rough. Very depressing in certain parts. Hard to do this one, but I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll be back Monday with some, I guess, March Madness starts Monday. So have a great weekend, and I will see you soon. Coffee, coffee, coffee. Just keep checking the news about the coffee. Later.